Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very, very first session of DIY Marketers. That was easy. This is going to be a series of hangouts where I meet with subject matter experts who are going to show you the super crazy easy way to do something. And today I am here with Writing Whisper, Shannon Hernandez. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am so glad that you're here. Hey, Shannon, tell the crew a little about yourself.
Sure. So my name's Shannon Hernandez. My company is The Writing Whisperer. I founded my company in February 2013, and in June of 2013, I walked from my 15-year career as a teacher, and I wrote a book about it, and it's just come out, so I'm really excited. There's a lot of great things happening. I attribute my success so fast to a couple of key things. The first is understanding content and how to make it work for you and your business. And the second is strategic collaborations with people just like I'm doing today. And the third is investing in your business. I got a business coach, a virtual assistant, and an accountant from day one because I knew I needed to build this business fast so I could move on to other things that became a passion over time.
And I love what you said, to create your business really fast. But first, for everyone who is going to be following you, I want you to clarify where they can find you on Google+, because you have a very interesting name, and it makes a difference when we're searching for you. So kind of give us the scoop on that.
Great. It's a little story, right, that I love to share. You can find me on Google+, Huffington Post, Facebook, Twitter, all of those places as M.Shannon Hernandez. And the reason that I actually put the M in front of Shannon, there's two reasons. If you just Google Shannon Hernandez, there's a man, and he has a really popular show. He's called Shan Man. That's his show. And I didn't want to be attributed to him. Like, I wanted my own brand. I wanted my own identity. And the second is also, if you Google Shannon Hernandez, there's unfortunately lots of people in orange jumpsuits around the country in prison shots. So I did my work, thank goodness, in the beginning, came out and branded myself as M. Shannon Hernandez, and now I kind of own that space. So that was good.
Excellent. I am so glad. Thank you for sharing that, because, you know, like I had the experience, and I know a lot of other folks like you are going to have that experience too. Are going to be searching for you. They're not going to know where to find you. I want to make sure they get it. Now, and we'll come back to that at the end of the show. But let's dig into the idea of content calendars. This is a really, really, really important component of any business, not just an online business, but any business at all. So, Shannon, explain to us, what is a content calendar, or why is it important?
Sure. So a content calendar can be many things to many different people, and I think that's what makes it so confusing. And so basically, just in its simplest form, and I'm going to show everyone a couple of different versions today in complexity and function, but in its most simple form, a content calendar helps you organize what you want to publish. Okay, so that could be to your blog, it could be outside articles, it could be you know, to your social media platforms. So that's really what it is in its simplest form, and it's important, I believe, and the writers, business owners that I work with, it's important to help you get organized, because I think we've all been there where we know we want to publish a blog on Tuesday, and Monday night comes along and we're exhausted, and Tuesday we're up and we're scrambling around trying to get something published. And I really teach about quality over quantity. Quality content is what rules the web. It is what rules the roost, so to speak. And so content calendars really help you get strategic around what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Well, you know, what do you have to say to, I mean, I have to admit, when I first started blogging, and, you know, I need to be inspired. And it's really hard. It was really, really hard for me for a long time. And I got very lucky that my content did fairly well, but I was just winging it, right? What am I doing wrong if I'm just winging it? How am I hurting myself?
Well, there's no strategy behind winging it. And if you, as we know, if we want to grow our businesses or anything in life, right? Like, I'm training for the marathon next year in New York City. I have to have a strategy. It started this year, right? So you have to have a strategy, and it's good that you were inspired, but a lot of the people I work with, they're burnout on blogging, they're burnout on content, and really a content calendar can help you keep it all organized so that when you hit a burnout period, or you just don't have time to write something new, we can go in and we can repurpose stuff that's already done and put it on a new platform. And I like to call that putting your business everywhere without going anywhere.
I love that, because I think one of the things that I've been telling people as I've been, talking about this session is that it's actually going to save you time, right? It's going to save you time and effort. So, and I sort of put a time out there, and I'm sure you're going to correct me on it. I think, my experience so far has been that it has really saved me approximately 10 hours a week.
By having a content calendar?
By having a content calendar.
Okay. Where do you think you're saving the time?
Where I think I'm saving the time is what you just talked about, which has to do with repurposing. I think in the past I was taking this winging it approach and just creating new content, but now that I know that there's some kind of a structure and a plan in place, when I see things I want to share, when I get ideas, or I can take an existing piece of content and repurpose it. So that saved me a lot more time than I thought it would.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I think it also depends, and we'll talk more in a minute, but what's the initial goal for the content calendar? And, I work with people who still have full-time jobs. I work with people who are transitioning out into, their business as their full-time. I work with small businesses who have a team of content people. All of those, or they have a team of writers, but they don't have a strategy behind it, right? Because that's the key, is having that content strategy. And so knowing what your purpose is when you go in and build your content calendar is so important. Just like anything, like knowing your strategy on Twitter. There's lots of different ways you can use Twitter depending on how you want your brand to appear and interact. And the same is true with the content calendar.
So can you give us a couple strategies? Maybe, I don't know, are there only a handful? Are there strategy categories? Kind of give us a little context around that.
Around what? The content strategy?
Yeah, exactly. What are some possible content strategies that you might have?
Sure. So one of the things that I do, so I just brought on a new client, for example, and so she got a Google Doc and it had an entire sequence of questions. It's called the content strategy intake form. But I'm asking her everything. I want to know about her opt-ins. I want to know how many on her mailing list. I want to know how many Twitter followers and Facebook followers she has. I want to know if she mails her mailing list and how often and what kind of content. Does she blog? Does she run out of blog ideas? Why is she not blogging, if that's the case? Does she publish for other industry articles? Does she want to guest post on other blogs? So that's really the first step, is getting an overview of the entire content. So she did that part, and we're going to meet for our first 1-hour session virtually next week. And I have a matrix that we're going to work on, and the matrix is divided into several columns. And, it's like, okay, let's start with list building. What are you doing to build your list? What's working? What's not working? Do you like your opt-in? Do you want to go, do it over? Is it not speaking to your brand anymore? And we've all been there, right? Where we had an opt-in and we're like, this just isn't what I wanted it to be. So we look, and then I help people find, well, where is their audience hanging out? So where can we put the opt-in, and how can we advertise it across, several different platforms where people will be finding it? And then we set some goals for, the next 3 months. I like to work in 3-month cycles. Really, that gives us a chance to see how many subscribers are coming in and that sort of thing. And so we go through this. We look at coaching materials. We look at the workshops that they might be giving. We look at online coaching programs. We look at the blog content, newsletters, email marketing campaigns. And so we get just this huge overview of all the content that's really needed to run someone's business successfully. And then we can talk about a calendar and how to actually implement all that.
So so is it possible to say that I want to have a traffic building strategy versus I want to have an engagement strategy with my people, or I want to have, let's see, there's traffic, there's engagement. What else is, oh, like I'm selling stuff.
Increase in sales. Yep.
Right? Like I want to sell product or something. So those would all be examples of different content strategies that she might choose based on how she answered your questions.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Gotcha. So that would be like your goal, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. That is fantastic. So let's get back to our thing. So did we talk about why people don't do it? What's been your experience of why people have not created a content calendar?
Well, one, it's another thing to do to the daily list, right? It's like one more thing to add. A lot of people, I'm a very basic kind of person. I'm going to show everyone right now like how I get my content calendar set in my brain for the month. This is a what do we call this? It's a calendar, literally a calendar where I have mapped out what's going on each. So this is my book blog. So now I have 2 blogs that I get to write for. This is my Writing Whisperer blog, and these are guest posts on Friday, and then all my newsletter campaigns are actually housed somewhere else. This is just blogs that need to get written and Huffington Post articles I want to post. So, if this is comfortable to people, this paper thing, there's no reason why you can't use a paper thing. And I think that's one of the things is like, I did this for a year on paper, and then I thought, I really got a lot going on here, and I have a virtual assistant who needs access to my stuff. Let me transition over. And so I had to find a system that worked. And right now I use Google Docs, and I set up just a spreadsheet, and that's what I do. But I think a lot of people get lost in the tool they should be using. And there's so many, right? Like you were talking to me before our call today about all the different tools that you've explored for content. And sometimes we just get lost in the tools and we just don't go do anything.
Oh, so true. And I think even as I reflect on it, it really, knowing exactly what you want to accomplish is the most important thing. I'm going to totally date myself now. And back in the day when computers were first new, and I actually had a course in college called MIS, Management Information Systems, I don't remember much from that class, not that it's even relevant anymore, but the number one thing I got from that class is the first thing the professor said when we walked into the first day of school. And the professor said, I think it was a woman, said, if you can't do it on paper, if you don't know what you're doing on paper in real life, don't even try to use the computer to get it done for you.
Well, and I agree with that. I mean, I coach memoir writers too. That's part of what I do on the other part of the Writing Whisperer. And there's just people, they want to write the first computer, and I'm perfectly fine with that. My book, much of it was written on paper because I wanted to go to the park, or I didn't want to be hooked to the laptop all the time. So I think people have to just, 1, get clear on what they want, and 2, get clear on how they're going to do it, and know that if it's not the norm, whatever that is, it's okay. You just have to have something that works for you in the end.
Exactly, and that's really great advice, and that'll take us straight into the next component, which is maybe you can give us some simple examples. Like so now I know I want a content calendar, and maybe I've thought about some goals, but now I'm ready to take the next step. What is that first little step I can take?
Good. So the first little step, I think, is, this may be a surprise to you, but it's for real, okay? Getting real with your time. Like, how much time do you really have to produce quality content? All right? And I think if you have time for 1 post a week and it's quality, stick with 1 post a week, right? We can figure out ways to repurpose that and put it other places, but getting real with our time is something that needs to happen. And I'm a writer, I'm a blogger, I'm a Huffington Post person, but you know what? I have never, ever, ever will you hear me say that writing is easy. It is not easy, even for those of us that love it. And if you think about a simple blog post, you need a killer title, right? You need the content. You need it formatted correctly. You need a picture. You need the keywords. You need the tags. You need, I don't know, there's other stuff that you need, I'm sure, that I'm not thinking of right now. And all of those things take time. So to say I'm going to write 3 blog posts a week, realistically, do you have that much time in your schedule to do it well? And I tell my clients, if the answer is no, then we're going to do 1 a week until we get it down, and we can add more later. So getting super clear with your time is the first thing that needs to happen.
That's great. That's great advice. So now, okay, so now we've got, what do we got? We got our goal.
Yep.
And we've got the fact that we're going to do a content calendar, and we know that we're going to, I think that's great advice to do 1 a week. And how, you also mentioned tags. I've seen some of these content calendar templates, because Lord knows if you search free content calendar template, you will see a lot of stuff. And boy, there's all, like you said, there's all different kinds of permutations of content calendars. Some of them mention keyword phrases. How important is it to have your keyword phrases straight before you start your content calendar?
Well, for me, I am truly a writer, okay? And I realize there's a lot of people who wouldn't consider themselves writers. So what I do is I actually write the draft, and then I look for phrases that would work. Some people like to do it the other way, and I have clients like that. And that's what I want everyone to take away. Like, I could tell you the best things that work for me, and they may not work for you. This is why it's good to hear all kinds of options, right? So that we have choices. So some clients go and do all their keyword research first, and they build their phrases, and then they write from those ideas. And either way is fine. You just have to make sure in the end that they're in there.
Got it. Got it. So maybe you have a couple samples you can show us of what some content. I love the one that was on paper. That's really awesome.
That's the archaic one.
Well, no, I think that's a great idea. I mean, anyone can go. I'm all about the DIY simple solution, and I think it's a great idea to simply pull out heck, you can print one off, right off your Google or Outlook or whatever you use, and you can kind of sketch in some ideas and get your thoughts going, and then you might want to start getting a little more specific. So I know you have some examples to share with us. Why don't I just hand it over to you? You can kind of talk about some different kinds and styles.
Sure. So I'm going to turn on the screen share, and I have 3 examples that I want to share. And please feel free to stop me if you have questions, because as you know, I'll be looking at my screen. I may not see you waving to me and trying to get my attention. Okay. So all of these are from clients that I work with. And I just want to kind of show you the various levels of complexity. Can you see that okay?
I see it. Looks good.
Okay, so this is one of my clients. Her name's Nancy, and she writes for elderly, it's like elderly healthcare is really what her focus is on her blog. And so when we first started coaching together, she just really needed to get a writing schedule down. And so this was a very simple spreadsheet that we put together, and you can see here, I'll talk about this position in just a minute. That was something she kind of devised. But here on the date, she actually has put the date of what she's going to do on each day. And so March 24th, she was going to figure out her roadmap for daily writing. So what could she actually fit into, you know, an average day? And then just for our coaching, right, she would go over here and she would put when it was completed. This is very simple, but you can see it's very powerful because you can see how much writing she managed to get done when she had a strategy and a system that was accountable.
I see that. So right? Basically what she's doing, it's almost like a little to-do list all the way down the line.
Right, and so even if you look in here, you'll see, okay, she took blog number 3, and she's now going to use it for Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. So we were able, once she got a few stockpiles, to talk about how to repurpose those blog posts so that she could make them work for her, right? I would say write harder, not write smarter, not harder.
And you know, the other thing you've brought up, which I hope doesn't get lost on the people watching and listening, is that everything is content. So it's not just blog posts or content. Crafting a tweet, crafting a LinkedIn share, those count as content also. And Lord knows Google Plus, you know, putting together a good Google Plus post is almost a blog post in itself.
Sure. Sure, and you can see here she even started writing magazine articles. So we looked for some magazines, we did the pitch, she got accepted, and here she's going to the article was due, she needed a bio, she realized, right, these are the little things that people are like, yeah, I'll do an article, and then they realize they haven't updated their bio.
Checklist, good one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you can just see that we went on and on and on, and her green notes over here were great for her because she needed to see where she was, if she had submitted it to me for a review or if it was done and she could move on. This was really powerful. So that's kind of how she started. And then I'll show you where it kind of went in April. So, you know, we started in March. In April, it was evolving. Her content calendar was evolving. And so you can see she has the subjects here on the left. And then the keyword that she wanted to incorporate was worn out shoes. This was all for Foot Health Month for elderly, like how to make sure that they're safe in their shoes. She found some references that she wanted to reference in her blog post. She wanted to link to some videos of doctors and people in the industry. And then you can see here, I have a tool for analyzing titles that myself and my clients use, and I don't let them publish unless they're 50% or higher so that people are actually opening them.
Right.
So she's worked on her titles here, and you can see this is just getting so much more clear. Does she have the picture? What tag words is she going to use? And did she write the blog and submit it? So this was just a month after working together. You can see what happened with her content calendar.
I love the evolution. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I see it, it's almost like it's great to start with the first, you know, with just your little checklist.
Sure,
of things,
like this.
And then yeah, exactly. And then, like you said, you showed this evolution where now you're going to start to see a pattern.
Right.
And then you can take that pattern and move it to the next phase.
Yes. Okay, so that was one client. Would you like me to show you another one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the next one is Teresa. And Teresa and I are working together right now. She's getting ready to give a Reiki 1 certification course. So we've spent our coaching time really thinking about all the content she needs to produce on all the platforms to drive people to register for her course. Okay?
So that's like her goal then.
Yeah, her goal is to fill that course. It's on Long Island, and it's a in person, so it's not virtual. Okay, they have to be there for the 8 hours.
Right.
So you can see what we did is first of all, the way to think about this is to think about when is the course. Okay, the registration for the course ended. It's going to end on the first. I think 11/4, so we made the last thing that would happen 11/1, and then we worked backwards week by week so we could actually map out the strategy all the way up into the course itself. So that's how the dates are fixed across the top. And then down on this left side here, you see that she has a newsletter. She wanted to hand out flyers to her yoga community that she teaches in. She needed special blasts, and I define a special blast as different from a newsletter with the people I work with. You know, a special blast might be something like, hey, I wrote a really cool blog article. It's called blah, blah, blah. Please jump over and you know, let me know your thoughts. Whereas a newsletter is more a full-fledged, you know, article with the events coming up and so on. So, oh, she wants to give it to me so that I can help her advertise Reiki for writers, which I think is awesome. But you can see here blogs. She wants to do a free call to get people interested. She wants to do some video series, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, go to health food stores and coffee houses and pass out these flyers. So this is just for one class. And this is what I do for people to help them get their seats filled, whether it's virtual or, you know, an in-person event. And And what we do here is she put an X on the target date of when she wanted to be doing it. So the newsletter went out the week of 9/29, and it was a testimonial with the benefits of the class, like somebody that had taken it before, right? The blog was all about eating the rainbow, like making good food choices, and so on. And so it's blank coming up because she's on vacation in California right now. So she hasn't fallen off the face of the earth. She just took a break for a minute.
That's great. So you can do, so this is awesome. So we have like the first example was this sort of startup building content calendar, and yet this example is really cool because you can do a content calendar for a specific project or a campaign or a goal or something like that.
Sure. So it's looking at the big picture, getting your writing time situated, which I'm big on, and the people I work with, they hear it all the time, like, when are you going to write each day? When are you going to write each day, right? We have to plan it if it's going to happen. And then this, and then I'll show you the most advanced one. This is the one that I use now. This is Sue's. So I just want to explain this because it can be a little, there's nothing on this one because I didn't want to, this gets really busy. So I just wanted to show the skeleton. But anyway, let's say the event date is December 1, just to say, okay? And then once again, your target dates would go across all the way up till December 1 so that you could actually work backwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Then here we go. Now, the reason this is in two colors, this is the one I use with my virtual assistant. So anything that is in green is my responsibility as the owner of the company. Anything that's in white, my virtual assistant takes care of. So I take care of writing the copy for the event, including the Facebook and the Twitter copy. She takes care of making the graphics for Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, wherever else we're going to use those graphics. Okay? And you can see I've broken this down into copy that needs to get done, graphics, are we going to advertise anywhere? Where am I putting it on the website, right? I have a blurbs and an events page and a calendar. Okay, I have all of those things on my website. All the blogs that need to be written to promote. I use Eventbrite right now for a lot of my stuff, so is the template created? That's my VA's job, and then I can go in and do the wording and finalize everything, you know, check for the wording before I publish. MailChimp, do we have a series set up? Is the template ready to go? How are the names, have they been integrated, migrated to the right list? Newsletters, special blasts, video. I mean, it goes on and on. The amount of content that people need to do to fill seats is amazing when you think about it.
Exactly. No, it's and you know, and the other thing too is you've got it. I actually have something similar, except my columns are reversed. And I love what you've got, which is you've either, in your case, you're using the A column as the place for what I would call like ideas. Right? These are all the possible places. This is all the different kinds of content that we can do. And then you've got great dates across the top. Mine is like reverse, right? And I love what you said. Different people think differently, so you've got to find what works for you. In my case, I have my dates down the bottom, down the A column, and I have content types across the top.
Sure.
Right? And then little topics or whatever. But one thing I don't use that I hadn't really thought of is this thing where you have like website, what are you going to do on the website, that kind of thing. So there's always like a few little details that you can add. And
if you look here too, like I think this, many people ask me, especially in interviews, about, you know, growing my business so fast. How was I able to actually network online and leverage those? And one of the things, I mean, I hang out on Facebook. It's where my people are. I love it. I'm not limited to, you know, 140 characters or whatever Twitter is. As a writer, that's nice. But anyway, so I even made a category here. So the groups that I can announce it in Facebook, how am I going to announce it? How am I going to promote it? And then I'll give you all my little strategy for following up is when you announce it in a group and somebody likes it or comments, I write down their name on a good old-fashioned piece of paper, and then when it's time for the link, like a last call, I'm engaging with them privately in a Facebook message. And that's where I get a lot of my business, is just that follow-up, relationship building, friending them on Facebook, getting to know who they are as a business owner, and really, working that networking circuit, so to speak.
That's fantastic. I've got a couple comments here. One of the things is people were dropping into the room. I was asking if they had a content calendar and if they had any questions. We don't have any questions yet, but one of the things that's really interesting and telling is that a lot of us don't have content calendars, right?
Yeah.
And Adelaide over here, you are absolutely singing her song. She would love to use a content calendar to fill a retreat. And you
Awesome.
Just went through this entire thing of you can pick one for an event, and you're just now talking about how to engage with people in a way to have them connected to you so that they'll come to your event.
That's wonderful. And, I think sometimes this is really overwhelming because we're just one person. But it's also one of these things, I think, that once you get a system down that works for you, it's not overwhelming anymore. Like, I can log in here and I know exactly what I need to be doing on each day, and I'm not sitting around racking my brain over it anymore.
Exactly. And I think before we wrap up, because one of my intentions is to keep these sessions super short, one of the things I really want to make sure that we cover are you have your goal, like let's just review, right? You have your goal, you know what you want to accomplish, and then maybe based on what I've seen, and I agree, you get to, I think it does help to have all the channels there.
Yes.
Like what are all the channels where you participate? What are all the channels that work best for you? And then start to really think about what you want to put where. And I absolutely love this idea of engaging and writing people's names down. It's those little details that I think make all the difference.
Yeah. And you forgot one important step.
Oh, what's that?
Make time for writing every day. You have to put it in the calendar. It doesn't happen. Believe me.
Well, I don't know how many of our other viewers are do a lot of writing, but I know for myself that one of the things that I do is I write early in the morning, and maybe some people like to write late at night. I happen to be an early morning writer. I'm clean, I'm fresh. It's like the ideas, or like I'm reading the feed and I might get some ideas from that. So how do you make time for writing? Let's ask that question.
This is something I take all my clients through. It's basically you number a paper 1 to 96 straight down. So you might have to, well, I use paper markers, so I tape a few pieces of paper together, make a great big long one.
Right.
Number the paper 1 to 96. 96 represents the number of 15-minute periods in a day. So 96 times 15 is 24 hours. Okay?
Okay.
Then you start with the most important things, like the first 28 sections, which is 7 hours.
Right.
Is sleep. So we factor in the sleep we need. Then we factor in the family time, and then the commute time, and then what you get at the end. Most people are very surprised when they're this structured with their time. Everyone who tells me they don't have time to write, we usually find 2 to 3 hours a day. They do have time to write. They're just not using their time efficiently.
Gotcha. I love that. I love that. And I think probably the making time to write, the other thing that, at least that I think that I was talking around when I said I write in the morning, is that you have to know when your time to write is.
That's right. Yeah,
right?
I call that the optimal writing time.
Yes, because believe me, when I was writing for Amex and they needed an article like every single week, if I wrote it early in the morning, it was done. Like I would, like some of my best articles that people were linking to and sharing, and the most popular articles were ones that I swear to God I wrote in like 45 minutes. It just happened to be like 5:30 in the morning.
Sure.
Right? Whereas, let's say I didn't get to do that and I started writing it, let's say at 9 o'clock in the morning, that could take 2 days.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
because
I'm
of
with
the
you.
distractions.
When I was writing my book, I actually was setting my alarm for 4 a.m. and I would write from 4 to 7, and it's one of the ways I got the book done in 2 months flat. Was just because I needed to get that story out, and the title of my book is Will Date It if I didn't get it done. It was my final 40 days as a public school teacher. So it's like I couldn't wait 3 years to publish it. That would be kind of crazy. So pick a title that makes you rush and know your optimal writing time and set the time aside to get the writing done, because your business depends on content to drive the people to you, to brand yourself as an expert, and to get all your messages out. There's nothing else that's going to do that for you.
That's fantastic. And I think the other thing that you sort of said, and maybe it was, and you and I had talked about it in the green room too, is kind of decide what's going to work for you, because I think that would automatically fill out that content calendar. Like, I decided that since what I wanted to do was build engagement, for example, that I would need to post these articles on social media far beyond the time that anything else was there. And so I was like, oh, and actually that brings us to the next thing that I had talked about was tools. So I want to wind up with some tools. You have shown us truly the best tool that you have is either paper or a spreadsheet. And I agree. I think that is an absolutely fantastic way to go. I think the tools that I talk about are the ones that once you've done all the things that Shannon has talked about, I have 2 time-saving tools that I use. One is called the Co-Schedule plugin and the Event Calendar plugin for WordPress. These are calendaring tools, and what the calendar allows me to do is write my posts. So when I'm writing early in the morning, sometimes I batch write if I'm inspired. I could just be writing multiple articles and get like 3 or 4 articles done on a particular day. So what I'll do then is, write them, draft them, do everything to them, and schedule them in the event calendar. The other thing I do is I use CoSchedule to do the social media posts from that. So then I know that I want each article to publish over the course of, let's say, 45 days on different platforms. So that's sort of what I learned in my journey. Those are great tools, not to mention the other spontaneous social media things that you could be doing, but that is just something that I've been playing with. And I think the last tool I've been playing with recently is a new tool. It's called Octopost. Oktopost. It's a new tool, and what that allows you to do is actually, let's say if you want to revive, let's say you've written a lot of posts and they're sitting in the back there, you can actually revive and repurpose them through Octopost by posting them on social media, or just kind of having them recycle over time. So those are my tool tips for content calendars. Anything you wanted to add?
I'm a paper pencil spreadsheet gal. I have used the first 2 that you mentioned. I'm not opposed to them. I think they're wonderful. But because I need to share, because I work with clients, it was important that I had a system that I could use, but also use with them. So that's how kind of Google Docs came along. But also my virtual assistant needs to have the same access, and we need to be able to modify and converse in there. So if you definitely want, if you're working with a coach, you're working with a strategist, I think Google Docs is a great option.
I agree.
If you got it down, or you want to try some new stuff on your blog, there's really great plugins that have been made for WordPress.
And once again, I think that the important distinction here is that you're not going to get away from, I think, the spreadsheets and the paper, because for the strategy, that takes thinking. No tool is going to do the thinking for you. These are more like implementation tools that you can, once you've got your strategy down, you can, what I just did today is I made assignments to my virtual assistant, said, hey, you guys need to go back to these old blog posts, and I want them to go like this, like this, like this, like this. So now you can really, that's the implementation portion, right?
Sure, yeah.
I want to give a shout out to James Worth. He is my pal from Question Pro. I actually write for Question Pro. That's one of my contributing places. And that's right, he uses a Google Calendar. We have used the spreadsheets, Shannon. We use spreadsheets for years and years, and but now they've really grown, and I guess they're getting a little bit more sophisticated. I really love that Donald is here, and he's talking about using his old calendar that's built into his phone. That's great. See, I think we have a lot of folks here who are super pragmatic. I think they're really going to love, love, love these tips. So, hey, let's do a summary, right? So what was number 1 again?
Number 1 is know your goal.
Know your goal. Then what happens?
Number 2 is set aside writing time and be real about your time.
Great. And number 3 is?
Pick a tool that works for you, and if it's pencil and paper, it's perfectly fine, and don't let anyone tell you different. If they do, send them to me. I'll set them straight.
Excellent. Pencil and paper are your best tools, and then Google Docs is the way to go to make sure that you share your ideas. I think that's fantastic. Okay, so we went a little bit over. I hope you guys totally enjoyed it. Shannon Hernandez, Shannon Hernandez, where do we follow you on Twitter, Facebook, and Google Plus again?
Yeah, I love company. I'm social. So Twitter, @WritingWhisper, just whisper, like whisper in your ear. My website is thewritingwhisperer.com, and I offer free consultations. There's a place there if you think you want to throw some ideas around. Go ahead and schedule one. We'll see what we can do. Facebook, The Writing Whisperer, or my personal profile is Shannon Hernandez. It's the same picture you see in the little bottom of the screen. And everywhere else, Shannon Hernandez, The Writing Whisperer. I've branded myself with content out the wazoo, so you can find me. It's very easy.
Excellent. Excellent, Shan. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us for That Was Easy. Why don't you tell us what you learned and give us a hashtag, That Was Easy, and share it with the world. Thank you, Shan. It was great having you.
Thank you so much.